Next up is 9:30, and it's a legislative update from Poston Associates. Mr. Zach Kennedy, I don't know if he's online yet, but we'll be expecting him around 9:30.
Should we just turn the recording off until he comes online so we're not burning no empty space?
We can. Do we want to turn the recording off for 5 minutes until he gets on so we're not recording nothing?
Are either of you going to, there's the walkabout today and then a meeting tonight we got emails about for Goldendale?
I would have liked to, but we obviously have this until late. And then I have the SEEK meeting tonight, monthly meeting, so.
Seek is now in the evenings? Seek used to be.
SEEK Goldendale.
Oh.
The little nonprofit out here that's trying to get the community cleanup thing going.
And you're underneath the other Seek group,
Correct.
right? Okay.
So, yeah, bad day of the week for me. I did reach out to him and say, let me know what you come up with and if you need any help, but yeah, with this full day and then that meeting tonight and then driving to Olympia tomorrow for lead steering, I won't be at the dispatch barbecue tomorrow night either, so, because I'll be in Olympia.
Got it. Are you planning on doing the barbecue tomorrow night?
I had not thought about it. I need to look. There's so many things. See what I can rearrange depending on what you guys want to share or who needs to cover what. I can look at what I could switch up.
I went last year. It's very informal. You know, get a tour if you need one. I didn't need one. Have the little barbecue downstairs.
And it's at their center out there. Okay. Are you going, Jake?
I'm still waiting to find out a couple of things.
Okay.
It's
Just
in my calendar, but
let me know. I do, Wednesday's a problem for me. I do have one I can't get out of. Tonight's better, but Wednesdays.
did you want to do that one tonight with the walkabout?
I could, if you can.
What
So
time
one of
is
us
that?
go.
Goldendale Grange, I think it's, I want to say 5 o'clock.
Oh, it's not on my calendar.
It's at the Grange.
The walkabout here starts here downstairs at 2 o'clock.
Okay. And then dinner at the Grange at 5.
And then I believe yeah, and I think you kind of have to RSVP, so I would reach out. 5 to 7:30 happy hour. Registration required, or just email me if you can attend. Surprised you weren't included in that, but
Oh, there, yeah, I think it's from Nicole Lundin. Yeah,
yeah, you're on it.
I can say yes if you guys can't do it. Good.
Yeah, the good news, good note, legislature's almost done.
Still not there.
Let's see him.
I did communicate with him, and this will probably be your last update.
I don't find that time, Dan, for
You know, for?
the afternoon, evening, 5 to 7:30.
Yep.
Where's that?
I have an invitation for the 2 to 3.
It should be on the start of that email.
Okay. It just gives me the
From
yes
Nicole,
button.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I can just email Nicole back and let her know I can only come for the evening, maybe?
Yeah, the original one was sent Friday, March 10th at 2:11.
Yep.
Actually, no, it wasn't. That was my bad. The original one.
That is, yeah, it was March 10th as well. Happy hour 5 to 7:30. Civic brand.
Yeah, mine doesn't have that happy hour invitation.
It's in the other email. The first one is
Okay.
the calendar invite for the 2:30 one, right below that.
Yeah, open that, one of them. Not that one.
See, I don't have that one. I just have that one from her.
So type Nicole in there and it'll.
See if
type
she
in-
comes out.
Yeah, see if it, you may have moved it or something. Yeah, there you go. Click
Okay,
her.
here it is. The first one. Let me try that one. Nope. Ah. So I did that one, the invitation.
Yeah, try that one.
Yeah, right, okay. I'll just
So,
reply to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was kind of thinking to jump on the walkabout, but we have a long day and there's things that need to be discussed in the afternoon, so. Still waiting on Mr. Zach Kennedy to come on to Zoom for our legislative update. I was just letting everybody listening know.
While he's leading, is there anything you'd like to discuss about the hot list since you're going up this week?
Not me.
I don't have anything.
One thing that I don't think it's on the hot sheet, but that was of a concern was the white salmon assisted living, where we didn't get they have an amount of money they need to preserve, so they need to get something in to help preserve that money or they're gonna lose. They lost their 3 million requests, they have 3.2 saved aside, and it'll go away if they get nothing. So contact with Chris Corey and Curtis King. saying,
Yeah, but that was
"Can you get-"
legislative appropriation and they already released the budget. They'd have had to put that into the
They
budget.
seem to think there's a way that they could still get something in there. And they reached out saying, can you talk to Curtis King and Chris Corey to see if there's,
Joel reached out to you asking that?
yeah. And I don't know if that's possible.
So I know he reached out back before the Senate approved their budget and they were hoping to get it in the House budget still, so that way there would be compromise.
And this was just the last few
And
days.
sent letters to everybody, and I sent letters to everybody, but then when the House released their budget, it's in neither one of them. I guess technically there's gonna be some debate, but I don't know that there's still,
Changes possible.
yeah, awful late in the game to insert something like that. What's your opinion?
I don't know how it could still get inserted.
I don't know either.
I mean, what I'm seeing, the big one that we've been tracking is the the House and the Finance Transportation package for the Hood River Bridge. And OFM came out with a letter yesterday saying both the House and the Senate Transportation package funding is not rational, logical, and can't be moved forward in its current form. It was a really strongly worded letter that saying they don't know what they're doing and that they're trying to push all this money out, and the Department of Transportation can't push that kind of money out. They can only do about $3 billion a year, and they're expecting $7 billion a year. The only good part of that is that we can point out and say, well, any money that goes towards us doesn't have to go through state DOT, so we can actually get the money on the ground. But it's still not a pretty picture when it comes to it.
Not a good year.
Well, there's just like, there's a lot of asks out there, and I mean, even after good revenue years, there's still a lot of asks.
Well, I don't know that it was a good revenue year, but I think their budget proposal is up 18% from last year.
Yeah.
So, they're not living within their means by any means.
But here we are asking for millions and millions of dollars as well.
If you don't ask, somebody else will get it. They're giving it away, so.
What we're asking for is pretty crucial.
That's how I worded it in my letters too.
Yeah, we've got the exact same issue with the airport, and that project down there, phase 2, Richard's put, significant portion of his time into getting this federal grant loan packages, and the county stepped up to the plate, and it's just, things are costing so much to build that it's.
Yeah, I'll be curious when it's all said and done to look at the list of appropriations into the county to see what entities in the county got appropriations. Because it's like what Dell was saying, he heard on the radio, $7.2 million brought back for the county. I'd be curious where that is, if that was accurate.
Still not. Did we send him a message?
We did. There he is.
There you go. Mr. Zach, are you there? Are you ready to roll?
I am finally here. Sorry about that.
Not a problem, sir.
I got cornered and could not get away. So sorry. I saw Lee's email. I'm like, oh, good. Let me out. So sorry about that. I'll get right into it for you guys. It's super short today. We're coming up on cutoff tomorrow. There's a lot of people that are scurrying around trying to do a lot of stuff, whether it be budgets or bills or this or that, whatever it may be. A lot of this stuff is already cooked. Deals have been broken, deals have been made. A basic, what I would tell you is anything that looks like a good tax. And by that, I mean, anything that looks like it could be a tax or a way to raise money, they're probably going to do it. They're super short on the budget, like ridiculously short on the budget, especially over the 2-year biennium here. And right now, they're not willing to cut anything on affordable housing. The conversations have come up. I don't know if you were, was it one of the things that they're looking at, and I'm sure you've seen it at the pumps, is the carbon credit stuff and their carbon offsets. They're so proud of themselves for raising a couple $2 billion on carbon, and now price of gas is over $4 again. And Hillary Franz, when she was confronted with that, and I think it was Art Swanick, it sure looks like this is just a tax on rural areas, and people who drive a lot. And Hillary couldn't wait to get off the phone. In fact, she skipped the second half of their presentation because she had to go to a meeting. So a lot of this stuff is coming down. There's a huge push to get as much through as they possibly can this year, because I can tell you right now, there is absolutely zero political will to get anything done next year. And this is not a partisan statement by any means. I will preface it with that. The Democrats are extremely concerned, specifically because they're in the majority. Their opponents are already out there campaigning against them for the 2024 election year. And they have a lot more to lose because they have more members up for election in both houses than the Republicans do. And it doesn't take a lot of seats for them to lose their majority, or certainly, lose the power that they have. It's still not, it's still completely up in the air with the governor's race as well. So those conversations are starting to happen now. And good or bad, the Republicans are basically foaming at the mouth because they're getting railroaded right now by the Ds. Everything from firearms legislation to taxes to affordable housing to the carbon stuff. I mean, environmental policies, all of it. They have realized, this is kind of the conversation behind the scenes, they have realized that they cannot stop what is coming. And the majority party has enough votes that they're going to do what they want to do. And you can't get out in front of it. So they're already starting to plan for the elections. All this stuff will start coming out here as the year goes on, and they're going to be pointing a lot of fingers. See, we told you. And that's only going to get worse into next year. And I think the majority party knows that. And so they're trying to get as much done as they possibly can. None of it is exceptionally good for the rural areas. There's not, obviously the majority of the representatives are from the west side of the state and from the inner city space. So especially since they're new, like 50% of them have never been in person, kind of thing. And they're trying to figure out what to do, and they can only see their own little microcosm there. And so this is kind of a dismal outlook for us at the moment. And even inside the Republican Party, for example, on the accessory dwelling units, those ADU bills, there's kind of a fight going on between, hey, we stand for personal property rights, and, oh, we stand for the cities and counties. Those ADU bills have really split the Republican Party here, on that issue, that standpoint. Do we stand for private property rights, or do we stand for, local control of the counties, the cities doing that? I don't know how that one's going to shake out, but to be honest with you, again, it really doesn't matter because the majority party has enough of a vote that they're going to do what they want to do. And I don't think on many bills we're seeing a lot of party line votes, and we're not seeing a lot of Republican amendments hung on things. I don't know if that's by design, or if they've just kind of said, well, we're not going to get it anyway, or we'll try, slow the process down. This thing's going to get kind of ugly as we get down to the end. 1670 is still in play. That's going to 3% on your local option instead of 1%. Anything they can do, they've realized, the budget writers, there's only a few of them, realize that they don't have the dollars, and everything they're doing, we use the term kick the can down the road pretty frequently. That's what they're doing pretty much everywhere they possibly can. They're even pushing some stuff through that they kind of know is going to go to court and get challenged, but it still buys them another year while it's in court to figure out where to get the money. They're literally going that far with the budgets to try and figure out what to do, because they're unwilling to cut programs. They're kind of taxed to the max. That's why we're seeing things with capital gains and other things that they're trying to raise revenue. So, and they're also seeing a significant drop in fuel revenue, for the transportation budget. Kind of one of those things where I think we were number 4. I think we're back to number 1 or 2 in the country of the highest gas tax. And we're still pushing more towards electrification and all that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not entirely sure you'd be able to make it to Seattle with an electric car in one charge. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. I don't want to say the doors are locked, but we literally find out what's really happening when they pass it on the floor. And, there's lots of speculation and, oh, this is happening and this is happening. We hear more about the fights than we do about what is actually going on. So They did pass the firearms bills, specifically 1240. That's the really kind of, I'll call it strange one, where they identified hypermasculinity specifically in the bill. The House, when they passed it, actually kind of rolled out the timeline a little bit, gave a little bit of time for the gun shops to sell off their inventory, but only to people outside of Washington. It's in concurrence right now. That one is going straight to the courts. We'll never see it implemented in the form that it is. I don't know what it's going to look like when it comes out of the courts. We will have to kind of have a look at that. It could be that was the plan all along. But long story short, I mean, if you go back and watch the floor debates, hey guys, this is unconstitutional from the start. You can't say some of these things. So I don't know if they got the bill or if they throw it out and say try again, but we'll see what happens with that one. That's a big one that a lot of people in the rural areas have been watching. Any questions on anything from you guys? I don't have a lot of super outstanding things to share.
Zach, I got one. This is Commissioner Christopher. Do you have any idea on their budget on how much of it is actually programs and what percentage of it is appropriations back to their communities?
Oh boy. I don't know those exact numbers. I could find out though.
I don't want to make you have too much work. I'm just thinking, if you got a budget that's overly bloated and you don't have enough revenues, slowing down some appropriations might help, but then it's hard to get reelected. So,
well, the problem is, I mean, and I hate to say it, but a lot of the budget, gosh, we only have, and I don't know the numbers this year, but traditionally it's somewhere between 25 and like 37% discretionary fundings. So that would be your appropriation side. All the rest is committed to social programs of one type or another. And it's kind of been that way pretty consistently for the last, however long. And so when you're looking at a huge budget and you've only got, let's say, a maximum 35% for discretionary funding, while you might have $100 billion budget, that still only leaves $35 billion for everything from transportation to all the things that need to get fixed, the infrastructure stuff, north-south freeway in Spokane, for example, I-5 corridor stuff, and you can suck down some billions of dollars and just things like that real quick.
right. So you're not seeing a big increase this year in discretionary spending. It's more programs going on. Got it.
Yeah, it's the programs that they have running that they've already committed. They committed last year, 10 years ago, or whatever. And that really is a huge constraint on the budget year in and year out. So, and what they're showing is either an unwillingness or they are unable to shrink those programs or cut those programs.
Okay, thanks, sir.
So that's what I've got for you at the moment. And, we'll know this is a slugfest at the end, and there's going to be some hurt feelings and all that good stuff, typical third grade politics.
This is Commissioner Zoller, and I do have one question. I suppose it's fruitless to ask, but I'm going to do it. We had a line item for assisted living in White's Hammond that they work very, very hard on. This was a crucial funding from the budget for $3 million ask. It didn't even make the books. And so they called again and said, is there any way we can get anything back in there for a little bit of a portion of something? They have another 3.2 million at risk if we don't get something in. Is there any discussion at all that could put that in there somewhere, or is it fruitless at this point?
I mean, it's never a lost cause until that gavel drops on
Okay.
Sine Die last day.
Okay.
And being the fact that it is a healthcare system, I think that there is a chance. And they don't tell us whether it was overlooked or they just thought it wasn't that important, or from year to year how they prioritize these projects is so hard to tell. And it almost seems arbitrary, but what they do is they go through and they have staff members take these certain projects and look at them, evaluate them, and then kind of give a recommendation which one's the most important. And if there's not a pet projects, you know, that the chair or somebody on the committee says, I have to have this, you know, it's kind of a crapshoot, 50-50. Is it gonna get it or not, you know?
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, of course. And I'll ask around a little bit again, you know, I mean, I've never got a real firm answer one way or the other on anything when we were talking about that.
Okay,
So maybe they didn't
appreciate
want
it.
to-
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I have for. Apologize for the late join, and let me know if there's any questions. I'll be available. Call, email, text anytime.
All righty, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so with that, I would say, you know, maybe draft up a letter and send it out to the three of them. I will see, I don't know what's on Wasak's plate up there.
Yep.
Yeah, being in the minority, I think it's, you know,
Files.
you don't get as much discretionary as somebody else does. Where you have to pick and choose your discretionary. Yeehaw. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order while we wait? Yeah, 1240 is interesting. I don't know how they even thought part of the wordage they had in there was acceptable, but doesn't surprise me. And I think he's right. From what I'm getting is the same way. It's not that the Republicans have given up. They just get tired of banging their head against the wall. Because they used to be able to put amendment on or something and lock it up and slow it down and negotiate and horse trade. And then last year they did a bunch of horse trading and said, okay, we'll sign on to these bills with this horse trade. And then the governor line item vetoed everything that was horse traded. So they have zero faith moving forward to even negotiate. So we are where we are. We have 5 minutes. We can talk court contracts. I think there's question on, do we want to put court contracts and probation into one contract? Or do we want it as two? Or do we want it as one and for probation to have their own contract for a second one? Either way, we need to figure out where we're going.
So the cities of Bingen and White Salmon wrote up some MOUs and forwarded those to us. The PA now has access to that and is reviewing that and is going to make some recommendations on it. So we're still moving forward. Probation is not included in that contract currently. There is language in there stating that the sheriff's agreement for jail services is separate, but it still shouldn't, I don't think, be in that MOU. If it's just court cost, it's court cost. That's an elected official. We haven't had the discussions on with Goldendale about the probation side. So we're gonna have to have those discussions. I think it would slow us down if we were to try to start into that. I know it's not budgeted on their budget.
But you said it was.
Thank you, sir.
78,000.
There's some discussion on whether or not we should use the cost or the net approach, because the cities are getting their revenue pulled out and getting already reimbursed. So we've already pulled that revenue out, so doing it on a net is kind of unfair from the discussion with the PA.
So we're still waiting, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna take a while because he's got a lot of different, we've asked him a lot of questions. There's different contracts to look over, settlement negotiations, a bunch of other stuff. So.
Yep. Okay. Any other information to kill 4 minutes, or hate starting too early in case somebody tuned in for Jeff's riveting update?
It'd be riveting.
Oh, well, let's start early. We'll run out of time.
Okay, we have a few things to discuss, so maybe use all the time. Okay, we have a few things on your consent agenda today. The first one is the contract for a liquid asphalt purchase agreement. That does not have a total on it because it's based on what we buy. We just lock in a price at today, and it was a good price. So one thing that went down, which is not a lot. A local agency supplement agreement for the curb warning signs, and Seth will give more of an update in his update here in a few minutes. And then number 9, we talked about this last week. I was not quite correct because after talking with you, we have to accept or show the expenditure of that grant somewhere, the dollars. We're not asking for any more money. What I told you is what we're going to do with the non-capital list. We moved a project, but you're going to see an increase in the non-capital list in the expenditures to cover for that grant, the grant money that Heather had got. So the actual non-capital list will go up by an additional $65,000.
Which is the grant.
Which is the grant, which is a portion of the grant, which Heather's going to cover under her budget. And then we'll just transfer it out. And that covers, there's no payments, and I'll turn it over to Seth.
On the construction end of things, Courtney Road, they finished the slough slope repair last week and are now working on a few soft spots that showed up on the lower end of the project. Not the reconstruction portion, but the overlay project. And the bad portion of asphalt installed last year is going to be ground up and removed starting tomorrow. The fairgrounds
Do we
water line,
remove that, and do we reuse that?
they're going to remove it and maybe incorporate it back in the mix. I don't know, but
Becomes the contractor gets it.
Oh.
yeah, it's just too far gone to try to do anything with it and try to match in. So they
You don't
chose
get
to
to
take it out.
just shoot it up into gravel and put it on a road, is what you're saying?
Normally we would do, a lot of times that happens, but in this instance, no. This was from last year when they paved. They
Oh.
did a crappy job. So it would change the whole grade of the road. They're just gonna grind it up and remove it.
Are you going to cover the fairgrounds water line?
Yeah, I'll just.
Okay. And then the annual striping project's getting ready to start up. We already got some delivery of paint and beads, and pre-construction meeting is scheduled for the 24th of this month, and they're going to start striping as weather allows. On design, so WashDOT, I did hear something back from WashDOT this week, and it was only from local programs. We haven't got any approvals yet to go to add. Sounds like what had happened is it just trickled back down to local programs, and there's nothing that they can do because the approval is still waiting up at headquarters. So I haven't heard anything more other than that. Just local programs gave me a call yesterday and said, hey, they heard that there was some concerns of how long things are taking, and they assured they're doing everything they can, but the bottleneck is still at headquarters.
Now it's a he said, she said thing.
Yes, two different departments, headquarters controls everything, basically.
Was there a change in staffing? Why this new going out to ad has to go through headquarters? Because it used to always go through local, right?
Right, so FHWA made a new requirement at the end of last year that everything had to go to headquarters for approval, and they weren't staffed up in order to make this change at headquarters. So, yeah, they've got one person up there that everything has to go through.
So it was a he said, she said, but it was because of the feds.
Well, yeah, that, get back to the he said, she said. That's what we're hearing from the state, but we don't know that because we don't get the other side. We don't get the Fed side. It's possible that the feds come into that, but the state likes to use the feds as a scapegoat to put in a lot of their own regulations.
So do we want to give them more time? Do we want to make this call again and be like, we just added another 70 days to our 95 days?
I say we wait let's see what happens this week. I know that local programs is pushing. They should have been pushing all along, but they're pushing even harder now. So let's see what happens this week, and we'll give you an update next Tuesday and see if there's something more we can do. And I'll be sending them a new project in this list. We've got, the curve warning signs and guideposts, you guys are signing the LA agreement. So that's going to start that process all over. We'll see if that moves any quicker than these other ones did. And let's see, what else do we have? The safety data collection project, which is going to be done by a consultant. It's going to gather curve information throughout the county. We sent the scope of work and the advertisement to WashDOT for review so they can consider whether we need to assign a disadvantaged business enterprise goal to that project or not. And design work continues on Sundale and Old 8. Right-of-way needs are being evaluated and calculated. The final archaeological report has been received, and we'll be submitting that to DAP for approval. And that's about it I have for updates, Jeff.
Okay. Maintenance stuff. East End is grading, crack sealing, and brooming sand. West End is brooming, grading when it starts drying out. Also, when it dries out a little bit more, we have scheduled placing gravel on High Prairie and Heartland roads. And they're removing trees from Trout Lake Park, which is an annual thing. We've planted more trees back there, but we had another 9 to remove this year that have died or are in the process of dying.
Are these like young trees that we planted, or?
Now, these are big old trees, pine trees and fir trees.
Our crew's doing it, or are we hiring outside?
We actually, our crews remove them.
Okay.
There's one we will hire because it's close to the property line and it's hanging over somebody's, and we don't want that liability. So we bring a contractor in for that. But other than that, and they just take the tree down. Our crews still take care of getting rid of the slash and everything.
Are they chunking it as it comes down then?
Yeah, we have a chipper, and they chip all the limbs and everything. And then the chunks, I don't know if they're hauling them off or they're leaving them there this year. It varies. Sometimes they leave them there, but we don't really encourage too many fires there just because we have them, but if we get into where we end up with shutdown due to fire danger, then, we turn the burning off there. So I'm not sure what we're doing with the chunks. Sometimes we just take them out to a quarry and then they get disposed of out there. But I don't know, I can check and see what we did with them this year. As we're still putting together the estimates for the HVAC on this building. Courthouse HVAC is scheduled for, last year's project is scheduled for May installation. Pioneer Center and the courthouse, this year's projects, we're hoping for a fall installation, but probably planning for next year's installation because getting the units has not improved. Superior Court's the same thing. Water line, hydro testing is complete all the line is in, everything's been tested. All we have is the purity testing, which will be done. This should be done right as we're speaking. It's getting done. And then we'll be ready, once we get the results back from the health department, we'll be ready to turn the water line back on. And that project will be complete. 4-H events, we have a 4-H horse event this weekend and an archery event next weekend at the fairgrounds. And then home and garden, May 5th and 6th. So, you know, finally we're starting to pick up events out there again. Juvenile, we're still working on. Courthouse break room is complete. So if you'd like a tour, feel free to go down and look at it. If not, we can take you through it. I think everybody's happy with it. I think the last thing is for IT or TS to put on the scheduler, but everything else is done for that room.
Is that break room open to people now?
Yes. Break room and the conference rooms, conference room. Okay, fuel islands, we'll have a design agreement next week to the board for the preliminary design for the fuel island out by the fairgrounds. Radio tower site, it's still the same place. Follow-up issues. Okay, Oak Ridge, I see we got an email from Pauline, I believe, isn't it? Yes. I've actually answered her twice. I'll answer. It's my fault. I forgot to answer it the third time. It's just the same questions written in different ways.
It looked very detailed, like it time consuming to answer too.
Yeah, and they're just written it's written in circles, and then we'll come back. It's the same thing until something goes through. So I'll answer. I apologize for missing it. Paper shredding. We wanted to bring this to you because when this first started, we did it as part of this building project because people had to move over. We were paying it under this. Then we transferred it out of that account because it really isn't a capital investment, just when moving. And then when people got here, we put it in buildings and facilities budget. Well, now we've had extra people ask us if they could get a shredding bin. Problem is Pam tells we don't have the money in our budget and facilities to cover these extra. And they're not saying they want us to cover it. They're saying, you know, we'll cover it. We just want a bin. I know the treasurers asked for one. Building and planning want to keep theirs. It's just come the time we just don't have the budget. So there's a couple options. One, the other departments pay. We would keep the contract and then we would just bill them. That would be the cleanest, because if each department has a contract with the shredding, then we pay administration for all the contracts. We either do it that way, or, I mean, if the board chooses, we could do an amendment and then you change money around and all this other stuff. But it sounds like the departments have the money in their budgets. They're not asking us to pay for it. They're just saying, we would like to get these.
What is the cost?
$50 a bin. So, and you don't pay for the rental of the bins. So when you want them emptied, you know, Public Works today what happens is Public Works schedules them. They come, they get the, you know, they get the bins, and then we pay $50 per bin.
Is there any downside to just having Public Works bill the departments outright for their?
No, that's good.
I could go for that.
Okay. We'll continue that process and just bill the other departments that want to do it. And it helps people keeping things clean, so. I think we're on a good momentum, so we want to kind of keep that. Okay, Dallasport tour is scheduled for the 26th at 10:30. Artwork.
You should have said the last Dallasport tour.
Oh, well, I'm hoping the last one. I think the board was fairly clear, but we'll see how the other group responds. Artwork, I kind of have forgot to remind, I need to know what you're looking at. So, because she's getting ready, she's putting it all on canvas and stuff. We made the first payment to her. We're getting ready to make the second because it won't be long. We'll be getting this stuff. So I need to know, I think you had suggested, Commissioner Christopher, you wanted like 3 more paintings or something, 3 more pictures.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, if we could get those, then we could move forward.
Well, Miss Sherry has those. I would just have to tell her which ones.
Yes, exactly. We just need to know which ones.
Okay, she doesn't have the store open anymore. She's working out of her house, right?
I think, yes. Tracy, we'll figure out something to get it to you, or so you can identify which ones you're thinking. Unless you have a copy of it.
I'll just reach out to her and
Okay.
see about that.
Okay, that sounds
Back
good.
in my court. Got it.
Okay.
I'll forget it off my list too.
Makes it easier for me, though. Okay, Title 12 standards hearings. So we met with the board, or met the last week with the committee. The committee's happy with where everything's at. We're making our final tweaks and we're sending it to the public. What our thought is we'll put an ad in the paper, we'll put an ad out on the internet, on the website. If you're all right, we'll deliver some hard copies to Lee. So when people come in for, 1 o'clock starting next week, what we don't want is we go through all this, we get ready to have the hearings and somebody goes, the citizens didn't get plenty of time to review this. So we're giving them 4 to 6 weeks, depending on your schedule to set up the hearings. So next week we'll bring forward.
Are you gonna have a copy or a draft copy of it on your website?
Yes, we'll have it on the website. We're also distributing it we're gonna actually mail it out to the community councils. The real estate offices will have it, the engineering offices will have it. We're gonna try to get everybody, because again, we don't want this back push at the end that we didn't. There's been a lot of work and a lot of people's time involved in this. So we want to keep this thing moving forward. So next week we'll bring the right to add here for the paper ad to schedule basically here. I mean, we'll tell people that's it, and then we need to schedule hearings. Now, we've talked about what to do, and you guys have to, the board has to say. What we would recommend is maybe hearings like we do for the 6th year, and then see, what kind of input you get. So, but again, that's strictly up to the board on how you want us to present the hearings. I mean, I thought maybe you have, the 1 o'clock or the 1:30 and then have one in the evening. You could go to White Salmon, or you could do it on Zoom too, for that matter. However the board wanted to do that. At least we get it out, and then at that time, the board could make a decision if they want to do a continuance and maybe play it by ear. That would be my suggestion, instead of scheduling a whole bunch of hearings. I don't know how much input we'll get.
That makes sense to me.
I'm fine with the morning or afternoon, evening, one meeting. We'll Zoom from here.
Okay, so I don't know what the schedule is. I can get with Lee to schedule a hearing. It probably would be towards the end of May, or maybe even the first part of June. Again, depending on how much time the board would like us to give the citizens to review. It's a 118-page document, so.
I think your time frame is about right.
Figure 100 pages a week.
Okay. So we will make sure that our goal is to get them out there, because we don't want to hear that. Okay, I have one more thing, and I received an email from Carriger Group. Carriger Group, of course, is the group that with the solar farm out on one of the groups out at Night Road. This is not uncommon for the energy companies to do this. They do drilling on private property. Of course, from us, they don't need anything, but they unload their vehicles in the county right away because there's not enough room to unload, off site. This is not uncommon. They're the only ones that actually ask for a permit, the energy companies. The rest of them don't. The loggers don't. They just take it out there and unload, whatever they need to unload. And so do builders or whoever else. Energy companies don't want to get sideways with the county, typically, especially with public works, because we have the ability to shut them down if they do damage to our road. Plus, they don't want to be blamed for that. But my question to the board is, that would mean they would get a permit from Public Works to work within the right of way to unload their vehicle in case they needed to work in the right of way. This is kind of a twofold thing because one, they're going to FSAC, but I don't believe FSAC, or we would want FSAC to issue permits to the county right of way. I don't know, in the past, the other solar companies have done it, same with the wind companies. It's premature drilling. And we've given them that permit, but we've been very careful not to give them anything else without a road haul in place. But we've allowed them to do that. But again, I'm looking to the board because this is unusual because it's gone to FSAC.
Is this just a temporary, what are they trying to drill? Is there a month limit on it we need this for 6 months, or is this?
No, it would be, they come in, they would unload, they would drill, and then they would give us dates of when they're gonna bring their equipment in. And this would be the date they're gonna bring them in, this is the date they're coming out. So it would be 1 day on both ends. And that's all we would give.
What are they?
For testing or for
This is for
installation?
testing. This is for testing, for their geotech stuff on site is what it is.
They don't have their, they're in the permit process with FSAC, and that may be a while, we don't know.
Right.
But maybe the testing is part of what they need for their application.
Typically, it's what they need. It's the first step they do. They should be, eventually, they'll be coming back to us again. There's one other test we allow them to do. We allow them to do a falling weight deflectometer test on the roads. So then they can present that stuff for the geotech report to determine what they need to do on part of their. We allow that. They have not said that yet, and I don't know what their thoughts are, but we haven't talked to them either. I have not responded to the email or anything. Again, I'm looking for direction from the board.
So they'll actually have a permit to fill out.
Yes, they would have a permit that allows them to work within the right of way, and simply so they can park, they can take a lane while they unload their drill rigs. And they have 2 of them is what the email says. And then they'll go off site somewhere.
Issues?
I think,
I have no issues with it. They've done it out at Lund Hill. They actually asked for it, I'm sure. and
Yes.
We gave them, we could hold the back permit to unload on a county right of way when everybody else does it.
and they're trying to do it the right way.
Yes. Yeah, they could have not came to us. I mean, again, the timber companies don't, but it's kind of they've been doing it
A
forever.
local thing, yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of how I look at it. We do have a moratorium on solar, but we don't have a moratorium on if you can park your road in a county. Yeah. So as long as it has that limited scope, I see no reason why we shouldn't do it.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you for the direction. I think that's all we have on our list.
Thank you for the update and the ask on that. Appreciate that. And thank you both for your hard work. Maybe eventually I will get to stop saying intern, acting, blah, blah. So
Okay.
paperwork to sign. Nothing else for them?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
gentlemen. Ten 20, it's not 10:30, but are we ready for an HR update or? Come on down.
I think I'm going last, so I can go first if you want. Rob has a previous
Yep.
meeting to attend, so he will not be here. Jen has volunteered to go first. I don't really have much, other than just progress for the budget book. And we will see if I can get this loaded up for a screen share. So it's still within, just proofing, it hasn't been proofed, hasn't been edited, but I am making progress throughout. Things are in conjunction with the criteria for the budget book in accordance to GFOA. I have included new pages, which breaks down personnel budget from operating budget, what our current vacancy rate is in scope of budget. So budgeted personnel wages versus what we actually expended. That's how I came up with those numbers. Mission and vision, each one of you had provided me something, and so these three statements actually encompassed every one of your guys' points about the county, our current demographics, about the budget process and the development process. These are all required by standard. I kept in the problem that Washington counties face with the structural gap and that information, our fund structure, 2023 budgeted revenues, historical revenues by base sub, property tax information. I kept that dollar graph that seemed to be really helpful even for prior commissioners. How the landfill is spent, our expenses, and this is
Can you
where.
go back one?
Oh, yes, I can. Oh, there we go.
Give me a second to digest that. Okay.
I often get questions on how much we've received from the landfill historically from the beginning of time. I've gotten it more than once, and how those are allocated. That's why I keep that chart. The expense, I started to color coordinate with a program area. Historically, the county has kept 4 program areas, which we've treated kind of like strategic planning. So I kept those, and you'll see those colors coordinated all through the entire expense side of the book. I have started the capital improvement in brief, which is a miniature book similar to the budget book, but only for capital improvement projects. This explains how the process of the capital improvement, basically what Public Works does, and when they engage the public and what their role is. Oh, getting a little finger happy over here. Okay. the funding sources for the capital improvement plan, what's restricted, the majority is restricted, and then that's identified within there. And then into the general fund expenses. Again, keeping those color coordinations throughout. So then that the general fund is broken out by department and then by program area. And this is the first one, this is where I'm at now, is going into the offices and departments. I still actually don't have very many directors or elected officials who have given me information. I apologize putting Billy on the spot, but Billy was the one who was one of the first to get me some information. So this is kind of what it'll look like, again, with the color coordination. Billy's office is, within that general government program area, so that color on the side there coordinates back to that program area. I was really hoping that the electeds and the directors would give me the information so they can have voiced their words and not, leaving it up to me. They know their departments better than I do, or offices. So I was hoping that they could, give me a little something, but if not, I have resources I can go to. And so that's just where I'm at. Any questions?
Well, if any directors, I can't deal with electeds, but if any directors are listening, please help Jen. Don't know if that'll do you any good, but.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted their voice to be heard. So that's all I got.
It looks like a plethora of information.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to dive into it deeper.
Randy?
Don't break my chair or my mic or anything else. You break things, I know.
He's the fixer.
I was just about ready to say what support we got from all of the county, and then there you are.
There I am. No, you did, and I was very, very pleased at the calmness of the majority of the employees as we transitioned through that. I figured it would be a lot more screaming going on, and it wasn't. So I was proud of everybody.
And I got a lot of messages of support from the department heads and elected officials, which I greatly appreciated, because it was difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, for those listening that don't know what we're talking about, our firewall crash, so.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into it. You'll hear more.
Yeah, so my report basically is going to be a report on lessons learned from last week. I asked Curtis to be online with us, so if you hear something, that's him chiming in. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is lessons learned. The first lesson was that we really have a really good team here. In a crisis situation, Curtis and Jordan both stepped up, and their attitude was let's figure this out, let's get it to work. Another thing that we were extremely fortunate to have Jeff Rowe come in the middle of the night. We're fortunate that he still just lives a few blocks away, and he was willing to come and help us out with the situation. So I want to thank all those people. So now for the problems. The number one biggest problem that we saw, yesterday we kind of did a little triage with the department, and we talked about lessons learned. Number one biggest problem was documentation, or there's no real standard to the document, to our documentation. There's no, it's not all current. We've got some information, and some information is old, so nothing is real current. And it's not very well organized. And the thing is last year in 2022, we had a 50% turnover in IT. that constitutes two people. Two, in a small department, you lose, every person matters. And when you have that small of a department, and you either have to have a large department with a large knowledge base, or a small department with good documentation. Our key here has to be good documentation. We need to, honestly, we need to capture information very similar to the way the military does, standard operating procedures. Let's face it, how can the military hand a multi-million-dollar aircraft to, say, a 22-year-old second lieutenant with any assurance that they're going to be able to complete their mission successfully? Training and documentation, that's how they do it. If they don't understand it, then they go. And so ironically, about a month ago, I started standardizing the documentation, and I did it first with a procedure on how to write procedures, and how to glean the information of what we already have and put it. And then the next thing is going to be a document library. And right now I'm looking at OnBase as our document repository. I've already reached out. It was about two or 3 weeks ago. I reached out to our OnBase support, Nardo Scott, and asked her if she could set up a structure for us. She's working on it right as we speak. And we're starting to get that together, but all of this stuff takes time. A lot of what we have lived on up to this point has been tribal knowledge. Well, I know it was that way because it was that way a year ago, and oh yeah, I remember so-and-so made a change 6 months ago. We can't do that, especially with a 50% turnover like we had last year. Okay, I just want to put this out there respectfully. Cisco support was not helpful at all. As a matter of fact, on the phone, Curtis made a trip around the world as time zones. As the day shift went through time zones. I think he said he talked to India, he talked to somewhere over in Europe. He talked to someone in the US, all over the world. And every time he said that he got passed off to someone else, they had to reinvent the wheel again. It was a big problem. It couldn't be solved in a 20-minute phone call, and Cisco didn't help us. So, and this is kind of out of IT's wheelhouse, but we really don't have a contingency plan for how departments continue to do business in any kind of emergency type event. There is no formalized contingency plan, and I think I'll just, because that is out of our wheelhouse, that's a little above our pay grade. So I'm just going to put it out there. Let's see here. The other thing is information sharing between personnel in the IT department is limited, has been limited. I think documentation is going to clear that up. It's going to take time, just like training. It's going to take time. Those aren't things that we can fix right away. But anytime you have something as complex as a network, and that information is all in one head, that's not a good recipe for business continuity. So going forward, what I think we need to do is we need to we need to be a department of generalists. If IT is going to stay the way we are right now, we need to be a department of generalists. We need to be the people that our customers, which are the other departments and offices, we need to be the people that they call first. But we need support behind us. We need the specialists, we need the network people. We need and it was painful last week that we didn't really know who to call. We were grasping at straws, finding out, Curtis started with the most obvious, which was Cisco, and honestly wasted a lot of time trying to get the information out of them that we have paid them to provide us. They didn't do it. So we need a list of specialists, whether it's a network specialist or maybe a send specialist or Kayenta or whatever the application is. We need to have a list of phone numbers, email addresses, whatnot to call when the situation gets above us. You go to your general practitioner if you have a pain, and if they say, well, looks like you need to go see a cardiologist, well, we need to be able to call the cardiologist. Is where we are there, and at this point in time, we don't have that. So in order to do that, we need to develop relationships with vendors that have that expertise. We and in order to do that, we need to start out with a well-written contract, and then I've said it before in this room. You do business with people, you don't do business with companies. I mean, the company is the umbrella, but I don't call a company, I call a person, and so with that said, once we do identify a vendor and once we do have a good solid contract with them, then we need to maintain a good relationship with them. And we need to not just develop but maintain that relationship. And this is a little bit simpler, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there because it came up yesterday. Is identify emergency priorities, and this might be a little bit out of our wheelhouse too. But for starters, if one computer crashes, then one person doesn't work, right? If a network application like Kayenta or maybe Ascend or Proval or something like that, then a department doesn't work. If the network fails, then the county doesn't work. So we need to kind of flesh out some priorities as to how, because like I said, the departments were very patient with us, and they figured out ways to continue to do their work. It's interesting that that the emergency operations was calling the Washington State Patrol to get information because they couldn't access it themselves. So they were working on alternative methods. But as we move forward, we just need to get better organized. Like I said, I've started the process of documentation, but that's going to be an ongoing process forevermore. We've started the RFP process for this very thing. To get a network redesign. So we're already there. We've already got we've already started that process. It's not completed yet, but we've started it. That's pretty much what I have. Any questions?
I don't have any questions other than make sure you tell your staff thank you from all of us.
Okay.
For their hard work.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you, sir.
So as far as HR is concerned, there's just a few updates. Rob wanted me to let you know that he is finalizing the job description for your review for the director of the hopefully new Community Services Department. And he'll get that to you today or tomorrow. And then we're hoping to maybe get that included with the workshop on the 20th for the review and approval of the job description, along with the org chart and how we want to move forward with restructuring that and combining the departments and the other positions. So just a heads up on that. Any questions on any of that? No? Another thing too is that the recommendation will be to move forward with the same grade on the job description and not send it to the job classification committee unless you guys want to do that. But as far as the duties are concerned, it is at the top grade. So if it's something that you guys want to review, then it would be maybe a contract. And so that can be discussed maybe during the workshop as well, as far as the grade placement on that, since it is at the top grade within the pay schedule already. Any questions on that? No? Another update on behavioral health. So Erin had got verbal from you guys last week to change one of the contract boxes for the designated crisis responder to a full-time FTE. So that will hopefully be on the agenda for approval on Tuesday with the updated org chart and resolution, moving that one box to a full-time FTE. And then I know that there are some other discussions about changing some of the structure, but that will be discussions at a later date to figure out what is going to work best moving forward for that department. And then another reminder, Marty Hudson is retiring as the weed coordinator. His last day will be May 31st. There is going to be a reception for him downstairs in the Mount Adams room from 3 to 5, and cake will be available. And then they will move to the Legion from 5 to 7. And so just a reminder to keep that on your calendar.
I was gonna say, is it on our calendar?
It was not.
And we'll remind you again at next month's department update.
Somebody just got to get it on my calendar, that's all I got.
And it's a Wednesday, so. One more thing as far as the Washington Cares Trust Act, I have kind of updated you every few months with that regarding the deductions.
The long-term care insurance stuff.
This is, yes,
State
so.
law last year or whatever.
Yes, yep, so they implemented it and then they removed it, and now.
Don't know if you're fully up behind that.
Yeah, so the Washington Cares Trust Act provides, in 2026, you'll be able to get funds to help pay for long-term care, which is different than disability. So that has been a
Yeah,
confusion.
you won't be able to find a long-term care facility, but you'll get like.
Yes, it gives you a lifetime amount of $36,500, and you can use that for care that you would need, whether it's going to doctor's offices or in-home care, training people to care for you as well. And so that.
Does that cover your own spouse or loved one if they're the ones that are doing the work?
You can get training for them, but I'm not sure they can be paid. I don't know the answer to that. I would have to check on that.
I know veteran-wise, they can with veterans, so I wasn't sure. if they
Yes,
could.
and veterans can file for an exemption from this because they have that care available. So they have updated it. It was, when they first implemented this, it was for people who lived in the state of Washington and worked in the state of Washington, and you can only get care in the state of Washington, and you could not file for an exemption if you lived outside of the state and worked in Washington. But now they have updated that. So Oregon residents would be able to file for an exemption now and not have to get a policy for that. So those are going to be available for Oregon residents too.
to be exempt from that if they choose to, because you can only get the care in the state of Washington because it's tied within the state program and DSHS and all of that stuff.
When is that payroll deduction starting and what does it look like?
It starts July 1st and it's 0.58% of the employee's pay. And the employees will see it on their July 10th check. So it will actually affect their pay period from June 16th to the end of the month.
Isn't it pretty tricky to actually, when you get down to it?
I don't think so. They're tying it more now to the state paid leave and filing for it, you know, and it is a lifetime amount. It's not annual. And so they figure that if you had in-home care for 20 hours a week, that would cover a year's worth of care for that 20 hours a week. So if you need in-home care for more than your, or for 1 year, then it's good, but.
Is there a waiting period or could somebody technically, is this kind of like Social Security? Where the first people that sign up can work for 3 more weeks and then they already have the
So you have
$36,000
to be able to qualify for it, your birthday has to be before a certain date in 1968, and you have to contribute and work more than 500 hours within the year to be able to qualify for a percentage of that benefit once you retire or need the benefits. And so there are some restrictions, but they have changed it a little bit. But then full benefits, you have to contribute and pay the premium and have 10 years of contributions to be able to qualify for the benefit. So, and those are employee premiums. The county is not required to pay a percentage of that. And so
Are we gonna
hopefully,
send an email out to employees so they know the sticker shock? I mean, it won't be that big of it, but
yes.
they're gonna see a new FICA.
They are. They're going to wonder what that new deduction is. And employees were notified when it first happened because it was actually deducted from their checks starting January of last year. And so I think as far as the setup is concerned, I think we're okay on the back end part of it. But the state has provided flyers that we can put as inserts with pay stubs and then emails and notifications that can go out. And I will also encourage employees to get on their listserv so they can get updates as well. So hopefully we will get everybody notified and informed and educated regarding all of this before it happens in July. And then also make sure that Oregon residents are aware that they can file for an exemption. And all of that is through the state. We cannot, the state notifies us that they are approved for the exemption. We can't just call them exempt. They have to go through the process. Any questions about that?
Interesting. I don't have any.
No? Okay. That's all I've got as far as HR is
Oh,
concerned.
you got 43 more minutes.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
I mean, never mind. No. Now is the time.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good update. Yep.
If you were in the right mode, you guys could do your addendum solid waste agreement.
Oh, do executive for that, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd kill some this afternoon time.
Right, then open up your afternoon a little bit.
Good call.
Does that 30,000 go up each year, or is that a flat rate that they're setting?
They said it could increase. They're not giving amounts, but inflation could
Right.
change the amounts
Because if it's based
eventually.
on 20 hours a week for a year, but
Right.
if it takes 10 years to buy into it, well, 10 years from now, that's not going to cover a year, 20 hours a week.
Right, yes. So they are saying there could be possible increases, but they're
But it's not designed into it.
It's Washington State Legislature.
Yeah.
I think they're still looking into that. I'll check and see if they have anything in their information on their website and forward it to you if they do.
I said
It's
same
not a
idea.
flat no, though, I know.
Even if you work
they are
500
discussing
hours,
it.
you did not contribute $36,000.
Well, I was,
Technically, it's gonna be a Ponzi scheme of sorts, because the first guy's gonna get a lot more than they ever paid in. But there's nothing new with that. Okay. Yeah, if you guys are okay, we can go into executive for solid waste handling agreement.
did we, oh,
That'll lighten up afternoon, and we can have more just board pending stuff in the afternoon and save
Sure.
that half an hour.
for how long, sir?
Good question. Every time I think we know this, it ends up going longer. Let's do 20 minutes for the first. Just because. And then we'll keep track of them. There could be extensions. So for everybody out there in Zoom land, we are going to be going into executive session for follow-up discussion regarding the proposed amendment to the solid waste handling agreement. This executive session is in accordance with RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, paren D, to review negotiations of the performance of publicly bid contracts when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs. Any issues of a general nature will be discussed in open session. We're going to go in for 20 minutes. That may end up being extended. We are going to go off of Zoom, but when we are out of this executive session, we are just going to adjourn for lunch. We will not do any open business, so you won't be missing anything. And then we'll see you back at 1 o'clock.